What's up, y'all? Today is a Jewish holiday, and I wanted to just say a few words about what Jewish holiday it is, because it's obviously not Hanukkah or Passover, so you might not have heard of it. I've basically decided I'm not going to edit this so much, because I'm really tired and I don't feel like it. Today is Tisha B'Av. As with every Jewish holiday, it begins in the evening and then continues through the next day. So like it starts at sundown today, Wednesday, and it will continue until tomorrow night. So until like stars out Thursday night. Tisha B'Av in Hebrew means the 9th of Av. Av is one of the Hebrew months. It's actually not Hebrew, they're actually Babylonian, whatever, it's a long story, right? This particular date is the anniversary of the fall of the sacred temple on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. And before you ask whether it's the first temple or the second temple, the answer is actually both. I don't know. It was either strategic the second time or some really weird karma that made both temples get trashed and burned on the same day in the Hebrew calendar. I wanted to light a yahrzeit candle, which is like one of those big, like 25-hour burning candles that are traditionally used for when you are mourning someone's death or marking someone's death. It's a yahrzeit candle is like the candle that symbolizes the eternal soul. So but I didn't have any around the house and I'm lazy, so I'm gonna just use a tea light to symbolize the candle part of this. But the truth is that's actually not even really the main part of what we do today. We do 5 main things. Fasting, no eating or drinking, unless you're in the Middle East and it's 1,000,000 degrees out, in which case drink water for heaven's sake. You are not commanded to get dehydrated, okay? So do not die, like drink water for real, oh my god. Okay, so we fast, we don't shower and get pretty, so like we don't put on makeup, some people don't even brush their hair or use deodorant, just this one day. We don't have sexual relations. I know the rest of these. The 4th one is wearing like leather shoes. What's the last thing? Eating, drinking, showering, sex. Okay, anyway, bad Jew moment. So we just have these like mourning with a U rituals where we mark this day as a day of mourning and grieving and self-reflection. Tisha B'Av has come to take on a much wider meaning than just, P.S. Today the Babylonians or the Romans, stormed the Temple Mount and destroyed our sacred site. It's much deeper than that, because in a lot of ways we kind of blame ourselves for the destruction of the temple, because we have this view that you get what you put out into the world, sort of, and that especially the land of Israel is very sensitive to the behavior of its inhabitants. And so we say that the first temple was destroyed because of worshipping foreign deities, and the second temple was destroyed because of hatred. And it's really that second temple thing that I want to focus on this day, because for me, I kind of grew out of a lot of the stuff I used to think about the meanings of the scriptures and holidays, and a lot of the Jewish customs that I did them for some reason that worked until I was like a thinking, growing adult, and then they just didn't work anymore. So I kind of find my own way to connect to these practices. And for Tisha B'Av, I think about it as a day to meditate on what needs to be fixed in the world. Because that thing about the second temple being destroyed because of hatred. Because hatred is so destructive, and also it's not just hatred, it's what we say is that it was sinat chinam, which is literally translates to free hate, but what it means really is just pointless hatred, right? It's just hating each other for no reason, and it's not just harboring feelings of hate. There are stories about the actions that people took against each other and the corruption of the priesthood and just, you know, really, really hostile conditions amongst ourselves that a huge divide inside the nation, and that is ultimately what caused the Romans to come in and destroy the temple, right? It wasn't entirely us, okay? It's those things that I'm reflecting on right now as I look around the world, and I don't think we can do much about, you know, the plague, but to try and find a place where we can just not hate each other quite as much and just fix the world a little bit so there isn't quite so much completely avoidable tragedy and unnecessary hatred. I'm not saying it's easy, I'm not saying I know how, but it's clearly something that we should strive for and should find ways to move towards. The corruption, which is a major theme in Second Temple history, which is that the priesthood was this really corrupt. Fixing that where that applies to modern life today, because it's not just about the priesthood and the second temple. It's not just about when we say that we want the third temple to be built, we don't necessarily want all the old practices to come back with it, right? We're not necessarily so completely tied down to a specific style of building and outdated ideas of worship, especially that are not vegan or animal friendly. And so what we really want is a symbol of prosperity and freedom to practice our faith, something that symbolizes that the presence of God among us. I think that's really missing in a lot of people's lives right now, is that feeling like God is there. And I understand. I mean, you look around the world and you're like, yeah, no, God does not live here. Because if God lived here, it wouldn't look like this, right? I mean, you'd think God could afford a cleaner or something. But more than that, the third temple is a symbol of healing and progress and achieving enlightenment and peace and joy and plenty. You know, just being able to feed everyone and heal our sick and have a place to live without paying for it with your life, and, you know, just things that make life hard, a little bit less of those. Not having these obstacles of red tape, you know, that you have to either know how to cut through or you don't succeed in order to get basic things like internet and healthcare and education and a job and being alive. A lit candle in Judaism is always a symbol of the eternal soul and spiritual energy, because like a flame, you can take a small portion of it to another candle without lessening the original candle's power. And that's kind of how we view our souls with respect to God. Like, God is the big fire, and each of us is just one candle lit from the original flame, but without depleting from any of God's original fire. This candle is for all the souls that have been returning to the original flame this year suddenly and for infuriating, terrible, tragic, avoidable reasons, and also the ones that go in peace, who have lived a good, long life, and it's just their time. But it's for the souls. It's to say that we recognize that death is a part of life, and we don't forget the people we know and loved who have died. And when we light these candles, we feel connected to them a little bit, because it's like a manifestation of our connection to the great flame, but here in our hands. I'm personally not going to be fasting. I haven't fasted for several years. So Jews actually have 6 fast days a year. There are like 2 major fasts and 4 minor fasts. The 2 major ones are today, Tisha B'Av, and Yom Kippur, and there are 4 others. And I stopped fasting on the small fasts like in high school, I think. And I just kept trying to do Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av until I was about 22. And I had a very bad reaction to a Tisha B'Av fast, and I said no more. My body is just not really made for this type of practice. And I always felt like if I was so focused on how much pain I was in because of hunger, I couldn't really focus on the meaning of the day. And that's what I prefer to do. I prefer to think about why do we have these days? Why do we have these why are we fasting? I mean, especially because, we talk a lot about the temple being destroyed and Jerusalem being built again. And as someone who lived in Jerusalem, for a long time, I gotta tell you, Jerusalem is freaking built, okay? Jerusalem is built and getting built all the time. I mean, the construction is unbelievable. So it's a lively city. It's getting bigger and better all the time. And why are we constantly mourning this like unbuilt Jerusalem when clearly, we've got shopping malls and swimming pools and gyms and the lottery and I mean, the King David Hotel, okay? Jerusalem is doing fine. It's the other aspects of the built Jerusalem that we're missing, because Jerusalem was this spiritual epicenter for the Jewish people, and we're kind of missing that right now. And also that sense of unity between all the different kinds of people who live there now, and who have always lived there, because Jerusalem has, for its entire history, been a diverse, multinational, multilingual, multicultural city. How do we get Jerusalem to become a place where really everyone can live, where really everyone can live? I mean, I'm talking, it's not even just Jews, Muslims, Christians, atheists. I'm talking queer people, secular people who also are allowed to live in Jerusalem, some born and raised, people who don't own a car, people who have dark skin, people who are trans, not necessarily Jewish, and don't have kids. I mean, there are a lot of different struggles in the city, all different kinds of people who all want to call that place home. I think my image of a built Jerusalem Jerusalem the built, the Yerushalayim HaBnuyah, is for it to be a place that anyone who calls it home can really feel safe and flourish. Not just, it's not just enough to feel safe. You also want to feel good. You also want to have friends and be happy, have enough to eat and a roof over your head, and be able to, be a contributing member of society, and I mean this in a way that, in whatever way you contribute to society, at whatever point in your life you are able to do so. Because not everyone can, right? And those people do not have to. A lot of us do want to and find all these silly obstacles in our way, and so a place where the cost of living is something we can pay. We're not afraid to walk around at night or kiss our girlfriends downtown or have a job and walk home from that job, and where we can maybe go and visit our families on a Saturday without paying a ton of money for a cab, and maybe a place where we can actually marry each other without the harsh judgment and the legal things that get in the way of that. A place where different kinds of people can really be neighbors and not just sort of like vaguely know that types of people live in certain places, but really live next to each other in an integrated way where we can get to know each other and fear each other less and maybe even love each other. That's my Tisha B'Av meditation for Jerusalem specifically and the world around. We need a lot of fixing and healing right now. Me too. I need a lot of fixing and healing of my own in a lot of ways. So I'm asking for that from whoever's listening. I don't care who it is.